May God, who has begun this good work in you, bring it to fulfillment.
As you gather here with us at the seminary this morning, you might recognize that there's a fewer number of us here today, and it's because today we spread out throughout the diocese for parish visits. We have parish vocation visits, and 5 of the men stayed here because this is their parish visit, because that way they're sharing with all of you on YouTube, just to let you know about the importance of praying for vocations, and just to share a little bit about their own journey as well. 5 of our men went with Father Ken to St. Peter and Paul Parish in Beaver, Pennsylvania. These 5 are here with us this morning. 5 also went to Divine Redeemer Parish in Sewickley with Father Mike Ackerman. They're there at Divine Redeemer Parish. And then the other 5 are at St. John and Paul Parish in Franklin Park, Pennsylvania. They're there at St. John and Paul with Father Tom Sparacino. They're visiting that parish. Also, Bishop Zubik took this weekend off. He's with family and friends, so don't worry about him. He's well, but he took some well-needed time off just to be with his family and friends. So it's good to be together as we celebrate today's Holy Mass. Growing up, my dad often had a saying that he said to my sisters and I. Dad would often tell us all the time, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. And he always shared that saying with us, like when we would start to grouse or complain about something that was going on, or whether we were talking about somebody, or whether we had a bad attitude. Dad would always encourage us, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. And we also learned a little song at Sunday school, I feel played right into that. The little nuns, the Sisters of Mercy, taught us a little song about this little light of mine. Do any of you know that song? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. My dear family, as we gather here today, I feel that's the theme of the beautiful readings and the prayers for today's Mass, but I also feel that's the beautiful importance of whenever we discern our vocation in life, whether it's to the single life, to the married life, to the religious life as a religious sister, as a religious brother, or to the priesthood, when we truly discern God's will for us and what his vocation is for us, that's the place where we're going to be able to allow God's light to shine the brightest, That's where his light will shine the brightest. Today's gospel reading has Jesus with the parable of the 10 virgins, and how we're told 5 were foolish and 5 were wise. And we're told it's all about the oil, The 5 foolish ones did not have enough oil. They didn't have enough. And at first glance, whenever you always hear that gospel, it's like, well, why didn't the other 5 just share what they had? It's because the oil represents our relationship with Jesus. It represents our own ability to grow in love, to grow in grace, and to become the women and men that God created all of us to be. And that's unique for each of us, That's unique for each of us. And whenever we grow in love, whenever we grow in grace, when we grow in our relationship with the Lord, that fills up our own individual oil jugs, and it allows the light of Christ to shine in our lives, to burn brightly. And that's why they couldn't share it. That's why they couldn't share it. As we're here in the seminary, with the men discerning the call to priesthood, it's a great honor and joy to be here with them, because that's what we're helping them to discern as well. My parents always focused for me and my sisters. They're watching this morning with my sister Rebecca. They always encouraged us the importance of building up our own relationship with the Lord, to have a good relationship, a good solid faith, Our church was important. And they always encourage us to go and be who God created us to be. And my sister is so happily married, and she loves spoiling her grandkids now, the grandbabies. And it's so beautiful to see her living her vocation, her light shining brightly as a married woman, and it shines brightly. And we always saw that light shining brightly in my parents as well. And 23 years ago, I came here to St. Paul Seminary to discern the call in my life. And that's when I realized that God was calling me to be a priest. Little did I know that 23 years later I would be back to serve the young men who are discerning priesthood as the spiritual director. And what a great joy it is to walk with these young men as they discern God's call, and how they're looking on how they too can fill up their oil jug, the oil jug of their lives, so that the light of Christ can shine brightly in them. We had the beautiful first reading from the book of wisdom that Peter read for us. And it talks about wisdom, resplendent and unfading is wisdom. And she's readily perceived by those who love her and found by those who seek her. These young men and the others that are traveling throughout the diocese, they're perceiving the love of God's wisdom, and they're seeking that wisdom so that they know what God's call is in their lives. And then Peter led us in a beautiful way by singing the responsorial psalm, "My soul is thirsting for you, O Lord my God." These young men, their souls are thirsting for God. They're thirsting for a deeper relationship. And as we get to see them as faculty, enjoying that thirst and diving in deeper to that relationship, you get to see the light of Christ burning brightly in their lives. And it's so beautiful to see that, because they're discovering that love. And then Gabe proclaimed the beautiful second reading, Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, and it's a reading filled with hope. And to realize that we go through this journey of life and it's not the end. There's something more. There's something more. And how that reading says we have to have hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose, so too will God through Jesus bring with them those who have fallen asleep. It's just filled with hope, but we have to live our lives in a way that will help us to one day realize that hope. So my dear family, as we gather here today, at the end of Mass, these five young men are going to come forward and they're going to introduce themselves and just share with you their own vocation story. And especially Gabe, he'll go in a little more detail. I ask you to pray for vocations. Pray for young women who are discerning a vocation to the religious life, young men who are discerning a call to perhaps be a religious brother. And pray for all the men who are discerning a vocation to the priesthood. We have to encourage them. My parents encouraged me and my sisters, and we need to do that as their church family, to encourage them to truly go out and fill up their oil flasks, their oil jugs, so that the light of Christ can burn brightly in them. And I don't know about all of you watching this Mass, but boy, the church needs a lot of bright lights burning, huh? We need a lot of people to go out and burn that bright light. And we're all called to do that, whether we're single or married, or whether we're religious or a priest. We're all called to be the light of Christ, to let that little light in each of us to shine brightly. As Dad said, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. So today, as we celebrate this Holy Mass, God created each of us for a unique vocation. And he asks each of us to dive in deeper so that he can know us in a way that is so special for each and every one of us. And when we dive into that vocation, when we embrace that vocation, that's when we're going to realize that the little light that shines inside of us is the light of Christ's love, the grace and mercy that he's given us. So today, let's ask God to help each of us to go out to light up the world and to be the light that he has called each of us, and to never ever allow anything to get in the way of us truly allowing that light to shine brightly.
morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our live stream Mass. My name is Gabriel Schoone, and if you have a minute, I'd like to share with you a little bit about my vocation story. It all starts with how I received the Lord's love in my life, which really led me to here in seminary at St. Paul's. To start off, as Father Steve was saying in his homily so graciously, how great vocations really originate in the family and how it's strongly encouraged for the parents to do so. And I'm very blessed in this manner. My mom and dad, I look up to them in so many ways as they encouraged me to enter the faith, to really pursue the Lord with all my life. And I look up to them in so many ways, just their relationship with each other and also the ways in which they themselves are pursuing the Lord. From there, I went to St. Alphonsus to really be my first catechized institution. And it really was there that I grew in an affinity for being up on the altar, for cantering and serving Mass. From there, I went to Pine Richland High School, and it was here that, in my high school years, that the Lord really drew me close to His heart. By the end of my high school career, I was leads in the musicals, captain of the soccer team, was voted Sadie's King for my high school, and so high school was really good to me. But another way in which I could describe high school was saying that everybody liked me, but nobody actually knew me. And what I mean by that is there's two instances, particularly in high school, I'd like to share with you in which I received the Lord's love. One being from that comment I just said earlier, my junior fall, going into high school. The best friends that I had made in my elementary grade school over at St. Alphonsus, I continued to try to keep up with them here in high school, but they went to a different high school, and so it was a bit more difficult. And that time was very difficult for me in a particular way my junior year because my best friend went into a different friend group over at his other high school, and that really created a lot of distance between us. Not only the physical distance, but in a particular way, I saw the actions that were being taken place in that friend group, and it wasn't necessarily something that I was supporting, and so it was hard for me because I saw that they were distancing themselves not only from the Lord, but maybe in a much more selfish way, is I was being distant from Him. I was doing my best to love Him the best that I could, but that love really wasn't being reciprocated, which was very hard on my heart. For me to go to Pine Richland, my mom and dad were saying that I would have still had to stay in the church and be catechized in that way, so I went to St. Richard, just where I'm from, my parish. Grew in a great relationship with the youth ministers there, Don Ruby and Taylor. But what they have there is a really great program. There was a fall retreat that took place that junior year whenever my heart was very hard. And my best friend came on that retreat with me. And there's an adoration hour on Saturday, and it's a very powerful moment. In a particular way, was very powerful for me. My prayer that weekend and my prayer during adoration was really, I desired for the Lord to allow me to love my friend. I desired that my friend would love the Lord with the same zeal that I tried to do so. And more importantly, I desired that the Lord would love me. This was a very difficult moment in my life, in which I stated earlier, and because of all the friends that I had, because everyone liked me, I didn't feel like anyone actually really knew me. And for you to love someone, you have to know them. And this is what the desire of my heart was, and the Lord heard my cry in this adoration hour. I pictured Him as I'm sitting in the second pew. He's up there on the altar, and He came down from the altar, came up to me, embraced me, and just said, "Gabriel, I love you. Gabriel, I love you." And He just kept repeating that this whole hour. And it was from that moment that really my life was transformed, because I recognized that it wasn't just me pursuing the Lord, but that He's actively pursuing me. And it's stated all the time in which it's good for you to be grown up in the faith, but you need to make it your own. And it was at that moment in my life, whenever I said, I want to pursue the Lord, that He is pursuing me. And so I continued to go to youth group just with a different mentality. I woke up before the crack of dawn and tried to pray. I was reading through the Gospels more of a study guide rather than actually growing in a relationship. But I was doing the best that I could to learn about our Lord. That's the first instance. And the second instance takes place later that year in the spring. And as all good Catholic mothers would, there was a Life in the Spirit seminar taking place at my parish, and my mom said, "All right, everyone, we're going." And I said, "Great, I don't have a choice." So we went to the Life in the Spirit seminar. It was a 4-week session that was taking place with Father Joe Freedy and Dave Van Vickel. And at the end of this session, they would pray over us and baptize with the Spirit, really just to set us on fire and instill those gifts from the Spirit. So we get to that 4 weeks, the last Tuesday. I go to be prayed over, and it was a beautiful experience, just a great peace that I received from the Lord. But whenever I went back to my pew, I felt like I just missed something, like something just didn't go the way in which it was supposed to. We go back the following Tuesday, and this is just like a recap session of like, hey, this is what happened, and we want to send you forth into the world to be that light for the nations that we were talking about today as well. But there was something that Father Joe said at the very end of that session that really pierced my heart. He said, if you were not here last Tuesday and you would still be like to be prayed over, we're going to be staying after for a few minutes. And that really pierced my heart. And every other Tuesday, our discipleship group at St. Richard would meet. Like a few of the high school students with Don Ruby would go down to the basement of the church and just discuss a little bit more in a personal way of how the Lord is affecting your life. So we go down there, and I text Don as he's in the corner. Someone's giving a little talk. I say, like, hey, do you think they're still praying over someone? And he said, sure. Do you need to go up? And I said, yes. So I ran out the room, and I'd go upstairs to be prayed over again. And to give you a little instance of how I was feeling is, if you've ever, like, before you've gone on a roller coaster or like do something like really exciting, like you get like butterflies in your stomach, you get really nervous. That's exactly how I felt. However, whenever I went up in line, I was third in line. At this point, I wanted to throw up. Like, I did not want to go through with this. And looking back, I have to laugh because I knew the Lord was going to do something just transformative in my life. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm prayed over, really felt the presence of the Spirit upon me. Like I stated earlier, that first story, I knew that the Lord was present. He was just loving me so well. After I start walking away, I kind of like fall in a pew, like I was just encapsulated with the Spirit of the Lord. And I just needed to get on my knees and pray right then and there. And as soon as I got on my knees, as soon as my knees hit the kneeler, I heard this voice that said, "Gabriel, I want you to lead my church." And I knew that was not my voice, because at that time in my life, I had a wonderful girlfriend. I knew what I wanted to go to college for. I wanted to go into medicine and help people in that way. And never once did I consider priesthood an option. Now, I teased the idea, like, well, maybe he meant like being a deacon and ministering in that way, or becoming a father and raising children in the church. But every single time I tried to compensate, the Lord was always very stern to say, no, you know what I want. And he was right, I did. Now, I can't say for sure whether or not I'm going to make it to priesthood through that one instance, as I'm continually discerning what the Lord's will is in my life, and I ask you to continue to pray for me and my brother seminarians along with that. But it was at that moment that I recognized that there's something more to this, that the Lord is loving me, that he's chosen me a specific way, that he's chosen each and every one of us. And so I finally, like after months of discernment with this, I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to try to see what you have planned for me. And so from that moment, I graduated from high school. I went to Franciscan University to study philosophy and theology with the intention of eventually entering seminary. And after 3 years of discernment, this was the year that I discerned that the Lord wanted me to do so. And I'm so thankful that that is what happened, because I've never been loved more in my life than I have been here at seminary, not only by the fraternity here, by the faculty, but in a much more real sense by the Lord, who has just been loving me in so many amazing ways. I do not want to be anywhere else. I can't imagine myself being anywhere else, because the joy and love that I receive from in here is really just supernatural, to say the least. So thank you so much for listening to my vocation story. Know that I'm praying for all of you, as I ask for you guys to continue to pray for me, to receive the Lord's love continually, and know that he wants that same love for all of you. Thank you very much.